Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Andy Zitzman and AJ Amex, your hosts of Game Time TV, where each and every week we are going to be bringing you great entrepreneurs, A-lister, people out there that are game changers, making a difference. We're going to share with you marketing and mindset tips, some business tips. Sometimes we might even get a little woo-woo on you and do some spiritual stuff as well. But each week, know that we're going to deliver you some great how-to content so you can get off the sidelines, step up your game in life and business. And this week is no different. We got a phenomenal guest, and you're going to learn how to dominate with Facebook ads. So many of you out there are either just getting started or maybe you're in your business, and you're at that place where you know what? It's time to scale. It's time to go bigger. And today you're going to get some great ideas on how to do that. So without further ado, let me turn it over to my man, AJ Amex, to introduce our phenomenal guest.
Thanks, brother. I'm excited about today because today we have a guy that you and I both met at Social Media Marketing World 2015, depending on when you're watching this. And we all went to dinner. Man, we were kicking it with like Martin Shervington and Vivica, and Brian was there. And so we all went to dinner. And I remember when I first met Brian, he had crazy eyes. Some people looked at my eyes and they were like, "You have crazy eyes." And I noticed Brian had crazy eyes. And I was like, "Brian, you have crazy eyes like me. We must talk." And so that's kind of what kicked off this whole thing. And what we're going to be talking about today is how to dominate with Facebook ads. Let me give you a little background to set up Brian here. He is the #1 best-selling author of The Like Economy. By the way, go to briancartergroup.com. You'll see it on the homepage, see a link, click it, takes you right to Amazon. Go pick up his book. It'll really rock your world into the topic that we're talking about today. He also wrote LinkedIn for Business, Facebook Marketing, and the Cowbell Principle. He's respected as an international authority on this topic, and he works with like crazy companies. I mean, people like Microsoft and Carl's Jr., even like the Cowboys Alien movie, which I didn't see, but it looked interesting. Right? It looked interesting. So, Brian, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, dude. So, before we hop into the content, like, I just want to hop into just you just a little bit. We don't have to get like too deep into your story because that's not what this show is all about. But where in your life was kind of the pivotal turning point to figure out this whole paid traffic game with Facebook ads? Because there was a time when you were terrible at Facebook ads, I would assume, and now you're the master. So what was that pivotal experience for you in the aha when it comes to dominating with Facebook ads?
It was when I looked in the mirror at my crazy eyes, and then just suddenly I knew everything. I've never been accused of having crazy eyes. Thank you very much. I started with AdWords in 2004, so I had a background in pay-per-click to a degree, and like many people coming from AdWords to Facebook ads, I assumed, okay, then I should be able to nail this, right? But the thing is, with Facebook ads, there's so many different goals, right? I mean, when we started with, like, for example, with the Cowboys and Aliens movie, we were just growing fans, and that was everybody's focus for a long time. And then people were like, let's do tabs, and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's kind of like sending people to a website. Why would I send them to a tab instead of a website? Nobody goes to Facebook pages, and that's where they have to go to get tabs. So why are we doing this? And a lot of companies focused on that, and then it got deprecated and killed by Facebook, basically. I mean, they're still there, but it's not. It's an out-of-the-way thing. But so I don't know if there was like one moment where I became really good at Facebook ads, but I did learn from several other people and from my own experience that you have to test a ton of stuff. I think the first thing that I learned was you have to test a lot of ads and a lot of targeting and a lot of headlines and a lot of images and so on. And then a later revelation was you can't. If you test too many things, you'll never learn. You'll never learn anything because you'll never get enough data. So yeah, but as we went along working with clients, kind of my wisdom from having worked with AdWords was that we could sell that and people liked it because there was a clear ROI. There's clear profits. So we've tried to push people towards, are you doing lead gen? Let's use Facebook ads to get lead gen. Are you doing sales online? Let's do e-commerce with Facebook ads, which is more difficult. I mean, it's really easy to grow fans. It's really easy to get engagement on posts. But ultimately, a lot of people, a lot of companies, maybe your CFO, whoever is going to say, should we continue to invest in this, right? So we push people towards leads and sales, and not every company succeeds with it, and it's not always Facebook ads' fault. But it is possible, and there are good case studies for that. So hopefully, if there's anybody out there doubting that Facebook ads can get you bottom line results, I could just point you to a bunch of case studies. So hopefully you will change your mind on that.
I love it, Brian. I love it, man. And now, by the way, just a side note, I love that you work with Carl's Jr. Thanks to Carl's Jr., I gained about 20 pounds, and I think maybe 99, 2000.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I'm actually from the East Coast, but I was on the West Coast in California and in San Diego, and I literally the Carl's Jr. on Rancho Santa Fe Drive, man. I ate there every freaking day for like literally 5 months, man. I love that place.
Nice.
Anyways, what do you do for them, by the way?
Well, it's better than Jack in the Box, at least, right? I mean, in the Jack in the Box, anything you pick up before you eat it drips grease straight onto your wrapper. Anyway, we did fan growth for them and Hardee's as well. So that was one of the earliest things that we did for Facebook ads, and it's the coolest thing. Like, in most of my keynote gigs, I mention bacon at least once because people love it, just like babies and animals and stuff. So there were some ads that were kind of like, click like if you love bacon, right? Targeting people who love bacon. And you know how bacon is, because bacon is one of those things that just makes people get ridiculous, like bacon suits and wrapping babies in bacon. People just get weird with bacon. So anything you find like that people get really passionate about is really good for Facebook, because here's one of the secrets about Facebook ads, and one of the reasons why it's actually better than Google AdWords is that the more passionate people are about the thing that you are advertising, and the higher click-through rate you get, the much lower cost you get. Cost per click, cost per lead, cost per sale, right? So Facebook ads, the way it's set up, gives you this really strong lever on the price, which you can control with that passion. So it's all about bacon and babies and cute animals, photo bombs.
Yeah, well, hey, coincidentally, I can't remember the name of the sandwich now, but I think it was the bacon double cheeseburger that has the onion ring around it. I don't know what the onion ring on top of it. It was awesome.
I've had that.
So hey, man, you mentioned that it's easy to find leads, maybe not always that easy to find sales. You said that it works for some companies and it doesn't for others. Specifically for the entrepreneur that's out there, right? The coach, the trainer, the consultant, the speaker, the author, right? What are some myths about Facebook ads that you might be able to bust for us so people can actually better determine what they should and shouldn't be doing?
Well, hopefully, I kind of get the sense that your audience is people who are not the people who are snobby about advertising, because that's the first one I run into, is that somehow there's something more noble about organic marketing without advertising.
Yeah.
To me, that's just BS. I don't really understand that perspective, probably because I've been advertising for 11 years and I've seen it work, and it's really scalable and controllable, and I just love the fact that you can turn it on and get results, right? So with organic, you're always trying to come up with that amazing idea that's somehow going to only pull in your target audience, that's going to become customers, and also get the incredible viral results. And if you've ever tried that, it's really, your chances of success are at least 1 in 10 or worse. So I just love being able to turn on ads and target the right people and get the results, for one thing. So that's the first myth, is that somehow there's something wrong with advertising. Another one is that, like, I think when people initially, like, Facebook ads is not clicking boost on a post, okay? That uses the Facebook ad system, but that's not, in my opinion, if you're doing boost posts, that's great, but you're not really doing Facebook advertising the right way. You should go into Ad Manager, right? And if you haven't ever gone in there, you just put facebook.com/ads, and then you may be able to click on Manage Ads because you've already boosted posts. But get in there, and then there's a ton of stuff in there, more options. The boost post has gotten better over the last couple years. It used to be you couldn't, like, there was no targeting, so now there's more targeting, but it still doesn't give you all the options. So, for example, one of the things you should be doing if you want leads or sales is you should have a conversion pixel and put it into your site, right? So that when you get a lead or you get a sale, that conversion pixel, which is just part of the HTML, it fires and Facebook knows that you got a sale, and then you know which ads are working, right? So you can run 10 ads and you'll find out that 2 or 3 ads are getting you a lead or a sale for a much lower price than the other ones, so you stop the other ones, right? If you're just doing boost post, you don't know what's converting and what's not, so you can't improve, right? Tracking, I know you can go crazy with tracking and there are limits to tracking and analytics, but if you aren't doing it at all, you're just in the dark, basically. You're just like trying to shoot aliens in the dark, which is never fun for anybody. So let's see, other myths.
Unless you're a cowboy. If you're a cowboy, you can shoot aliens in the dark.
If you're Daniel Craig or Harrison Ford, you should definitely do that. But if you just think you might be one of those people, you're probably going to get killed. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brian, I had a question for you, too, just to interject, because these two myths, right before you got into these myths, too, you said, maybe your audience, I think your audience are the people that, that aren't snobby about advertising. Our audience is, AJ and I are very specific, too, in terms of who we recommend to start doing Facebook ads and who we don't, and one of the things is we always tell people is that, don't expect either just to start to turn on Facebook ads, run a webinar, and you're going to have 7 figures overnight either. We really believe that you should work on your program, your product, have a very sustainable business, one that's ready to be marketed before you just start marketing as well. Do you have any thoughts on that, that you could share as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of chicken or egg just because while you're working on your business, you need to get traffic and prospects and stuff, right? So if you have another way to do that before you start Facebook advertising, that's great. If you can dial in your conversion funnel and improve your conversion rates at each step in the funnel and all that stuff, that's definitely great. And I'll tell you this, the flip side is occasionally we'll get a client who has a new product and has never proven that anyone wants to buy it at all, let alone online, right? And so I always tell these people, you know what, by the way, we're not testing Facebook ads here. We're testing like whether we get the right ads and if anyone wants your product at all, right? So I've had a couple clients where it's difficult. I mean, you never know what you're going to get, which is why when they start with me, I usually say, look, let's plan on working for 3 months. You need a specific budget, and you need to understand that we're doing a lot of testing at first. Even if you have a funnel that works, we're trying to find the right audience and the right ad and all that stuff. And so it's much easier to work with someone who's already getting sales and has that dialed in, because then we're just trying to find the right way to do it on Facebook. And the way I look at it is, look, if people are buying your stuff, well, there are people on Facebook. It's all just people. There's no magic about Facebook ads that would make it for some reason just not work for your people that already buy. So there are all kinds of variables, like, do they trust you? What's your normal funnel? Like if your normal funnel involves doing a lot of things that build trust and warm up that customer, then you're going to have to take Facebook people through the same process, right? Because otherwise it's just it's basically cold traffic on Facebook. I think, did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
and that kind of brings us to the next piece of this conversation, which is, how do we pull this off? So the people listening now, they understand that the fastest way to go and to perform at an elite level is you have to learn to master paid advertising, whether they learn to do it themselves or they hire you, Brian. Like that's a piece of the game of creating a sustainable business. Anybody performing at an elite level, they have a strategy for paid traffic, and you have said, hey, Facebook's one of the best paid traffic sources out there. So for those that are here and they're listening and they bought into this idea, like, cool, let's dominate. I've sold some stuff offline. I'm really ready to scale this thing. What are the steps that they need to take to actually pull this off?
Well, and kind of like you guys said, you got to have that online funnel. You got to have everything set up right, and if you haven't sold that way, it's going to be tougher. We're going to be testing your funnel and all that stuff. But if you have, then the first thing we do in Facebook ads is we talk about, we have this big questionnaire we run people through because we need to understand certain things about your business. And so there may be like for example, what's your USP, right? What's your unique selling proposition? Why should people buy from you? What are the benefits? Blah blah blah. So some of your success in Facebook advertising is going to be dependent upon how well you've already figured out the marketing angle for your product, right? Just having, you know, a cool headline or a cool picture or whatever may or may not be enough, right? So we're going to test a whole bunch of things, but the first thing we're going to test is targeting, right? So how are we going to, who are the people that, who are your customers, and how are we going to reach them? And a lot of times that's through interest targeting. Like, what do they like? What association might they belong to? What magazine do they like? What product have they bought before? What's their job title? Those are all some targeting things we need to do. And you'll see radically different prices for different targets, okay? So, and the reason I say targeting first is because you can test, most people think, well, I'm going to test like all these, I got these cool images, I've got these headlines, and this is what I did originally too as well. But if you're getting all this creative stuff out to the wrong target, you're kind of wasting your time and your money. So what we've started to do now, our process is we create a relatively boring ad and test it against a bunch of different targets, right? And we're just looking for that response. Like some of those are going to get leads and sales and some aren't, right? And then we're going to, so if we got 2 or 3 really good targets out of that, we're going to then get into all the really creative headlines and body copy and images and stuff to drive that price even lower. And what I mean by a boring ad is, what is your offer? Why is it good for you? What does it do? You know, and if do you need to qualify people on price? Maybe put the price in there. And maybe just use your logo for the image, right? You're trying to be boring on purpose to ascertain what's really the strength of this offer, you know, without it, you know, like this is a really bad analogy, and I'm not going to use that analogy. Okay, here's the analogy. How good looking is this person without getting all dressed up for Friday night, right? Right. So how attractive is this offer without putting in amazingly powerful copywriting words or whatever? So that's what I want to find out first. What's the best target? And I'm going to test probably maybe 3 to 5 targets, maybe 5 to 10. And how much you can test at a time depends on the budget, right? So think about it this way. Let's say we're doing lead gen, and we're guessing that it's going to be like $20 a lead, and it depends on your niche. I mean, there are clients we've done $1 or $2 leads for, but there are more expensive niches where it's $30 a lead, and that's good. But let's say it's $20 a lead, then you're going to have to spend $20 on every ad you create in order to know if it worked, right? And once you've started to get those leads, and let's say they turn out to be $15 leads, you have to budget $15 for every ad you want to test, right? And if you want to test, let's do some math, right? Let's test 3 headlines, 3 images, 3 different body copies, and 3 different targets, right? So let's go back to math. That's 3 to the 4th power, which is
40, I think.
Is it 81? Yeah. So that's 81 ads.
Oh, 81
right?
ads.
81 ads, and it didn't seem like much. We were just going to do 3 of each thing, right?
Right.
81 ads now times $15 is $1,200. Okay. So you have to be smart about what you're testing too. You have to look at testing as something that's done in stages. Start with targeting, then go maybe images next. But you can't just. It's really tempting to be like to find a whole bunch of ideas you want to test, but you have to narrow down those ideas before you actually start testing, or it's just going to cost you so much money, you know. And it can be really discouraging if you have one of the more challenging offerings or projects or whatever, and you've done a round of advertising and not gotten results. You've done another round and not gotten results. You start to look at the cost, and you're like, oh man. So you have to think ahead of time with this whole Facebook advertising thing. That's why we tell clients, plan to spend 3 months with us. In the worst case scenario, right? Hopefully by month 2 you're already excited and we're getting great results. But worst case scenario, plan to work with us for 3 months. Plan to budget like $9,000 for fee and spend. okay? And if you choke on that, then maybe you don't have the money or the funnel or the business yet, right? Because you might be one of those people that's lucky and gets on Facebook ads and starts getting results right away. If you do, awesome. Like, hopefully you've got the conversion pixel in and you know you're getting results and you know what ads are doing it. From there, you can just make it a lot better. But there are people.
Yeah, I want to interrupt you because I like this approach and I have a few questions for you. But before I hop into the questions, one of the things that I see people doing, especially in the expert space, is they're going to seminar after seminar and they're buying coaching program after coaching program. And you said something here that's very a little controversial, which is, hey, come spend $9,000 in 3 months. It's $3,000 a month, and if you don't make money, it's not because the ads are bad. It's because you and your business suck. Like, that's the reality.
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm going to say this. Like, okay, you don't have to say that. I'm going to say that, right? And I'm okay with that. And that's a good thing to know that. Otherwise, if you don't know, hey, maybe your USP's not good. Maybe your offering's not good. Maybe your copy's not good, and that needs to be changed. That $9,000 is going to save you a tremendous amount of money and time, because I don't know how many people Andy and I have spoken with that are doing the seminar junkie circuit, spending $50,000 to $100,000 to $200,000 when they could have just spent $9,000 to figure out the answer of what the market's telling them, and done it in 3 months rather than doing the seminar circuit for 2 years.
And if you have a really bad idea, you're probably going to find out within $3,000 to $4,000. I mean, like first, when we see 0 results, the first thing we do is go back and make sure the conversion tracking is installed right. Like, we probably double checked it already, but we need to make sure there's not a technical error. Usually 0 sales means a technical error. If it's not a technical error, it means a big time product conception error, you know. And I have made this error. So let me share a mistake.
Sure.
I created a product. I still think it's a great product. It's called the Awareness Blueprint, and it teaches businesses how to get more awareness and so on. And there are all these different things I could have created. Like, I could have focused on ROI, which I usually do, which I found to be best. But I did a poll of my email audience and my social audience, and awareness came up first. And I'm like, really? Okay, gosh, all right. And then I created it, and I'm like, this is still good. But then I hesitated to sell it because I'm like, I still don't feel awesome about just selling people awareness. Like, I mean, I know some people want that, but it just, I don't know. And then a mastermind group I'm in, they're like, no, that stuff's awesome. And I had told them some of it, and they're like, no, I didn't know that. You need to teach that. So I sold it. I only sold like 17 copies of this thing, and looking back, I think the only error I could have made was assuming that a poll of what you want equates to they will buy it.
Huge.
It's not just so. It's what people will buy, what people will do versus what they say they'll do.
Yeah, I don't remember where I heard this, and I don't remember if I got this from Tim Ferriss or the 4-Hour Workweek. I don't really remember if it was a Robert Kiyosaki thing. I don't remember, but he touched on this concept, which the best way to have proof of concept is not to ask them what they want, but take it a step further and make them pay for it. Like, and if they put in their credit card information and they hit order, and then the thank you page just says, hey, we don't have this ready yet, you know, we will in the next 2 months, and then don't take their money. But by them going through the checkout process, it proves the proof of concept, because you can say they did pull out their payment and they're willing to pay for it. So now let's get to work and do that. And I think John Lee Dumas did this a great way when he did Podcaster's Paradise, when he definitely did the webinar on fire, because he asked, he surveyed, then he did a webinar, and then he pre-sold, and then he created, and he was very honest with them and just said, hey guys, this isn't even ready yet, but if you guys buy, well then you guys are going to get this ridiculously discounted price, and I'll get to work and create it for you, but I don't want to create this thing if you don't want it. And people bought, and so that was how he was proof of concept. So huge distinction there.
What do you think of the cupcake concept? Like, I read this article not too long ago that was like, create, like, instead of creating a big wedding cake, create a cupcake. If people buy it, you create that bigger version. Have you guys tried that, where you create a smaller version of a product? I mean, it only really proves they'll pay a little for it, so that's the weakness of that.
True, and I haven't heard of that concept, but I will tell you, I like it. I mean that's a great analogy, like the cupcake to the wedding cake, and it'd be interesting because you could say, okay, well, people bought it at this discounted price. Will they pay the full price? And so then here's my take on this. My take is if you have a wedding cake, right, for a wedding, and it's this huge thing, and it would I don't know what wedding cakes cost. $1,500.
You're gonna find out soon enough, buddy.
You're gonna sell a cupcake, and let's say it's $5. I've paid $5 for a cupcake before. And then so if I eat this cupcake for $5, and if it gives me the results of the wedding cake, for instance, well, then I would be willing, and I would say the customer would be willing to then pay. So I think it depends upon the results that you get the cupcake customers. And if their results, their ROI, is worthy of the wedding cake, then you can leverage those testimonials and case studies to justify the price increase. But saying, hey, this is how much this cost, I want to sell it for this because I want to, that's probably not going to convert well. Because again, it comes back to what you said, which is the ROI, and that depends upon the pricing.
Well, let me make sure it was clear. Like, so if you create a cupcake, it's like maybe it's an ebook and a video or whatever, and it's on a specific topic. It's like, here's how to use Facebook ads to get new clients, right? And they buy it, and then you're like, oh, cool, like 100 people bought this thing, so I'll create a larger product that has more detail and more ROI. You know what I mean? And then price that for a higher price.
Yeah, and I would caveat that with, if you have the testimonials and case studies to validate and prove that it's worthy of that price point.
Got it.
Right? And so example here, let's say somebody's selling coaching, and their coaching is $100,000 a year. I have friends of mine that charge $100,000 a year for their coaching. But every client they have is doing, they'll invest 100 and they're going to go make 300 or 500 or $1 million if they do the work, through that year period of working with this person, right? Let's say another person says, well, so-and-so's charging 100,000 for their coaching, so therefore I'm going to as well, but yet the people coming through the program aren't generating the 3 to 5 to 10, $1 million, so the 3 to 5 to 10x their results. There's no way that they could just because somebody else was. But if they had those case studies to say, hey, I've helped these people generate 300, 500, $1 million, now pay me 6 figures to come work with me. All right, well, that makes sense because they have the case studies and testimonials to back up their value that they're bringing to the marketplace. Is that making sense?
Yeah, and I think there are probably other elements, because there's a dude I'm thinking of who I won't name who sold a whole bunch of stuff just on his own personal success with those strategies, which I've always thought was kind of a weak amount of proof. If you've got, like you're saying, if you've got proof from the actual students, that your students got results, that's way more certain to work than like this one dude got it, because I think that one dude still is succeeding based on, I think, charisma and some other things. Not so much whether their system gets results.
Do I know this dude?
You both, I'm sure, have heard of millions of people have heard of this dude.
I know. I'm kidding. I know a lot. I know a lot of those dudes. Might have even spent money with some of those dudes.
Yeah. I spent money with them.
So I know what you're saying, and so, but you know what? That's a good point that you brought up, Brian, too. And then let's get back into your great stuff. But what Brian just said, everyone out there, is essentially there's a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants, a lot of business people out there that will sell you on results based on what they're doing for their own business, but they're not showing you that they're actually doing it for other people's business. And so you can get caught up in charisma and the person, and maybe they look good, whatever, but they're having great results in their business, but they're not getting it in the people that they're actually coaching or consulting. And so, what Brian is saying is, if you're going to go drop, $9,000 with Brian, or thousands with AJ and I, or any other coach or consultant out there, make sure they're showing you that they're getting results for people outside of their business, because that's the proof. That's the real.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing for those that are listening that are like, oh God, I don't have these results, so I just can't get started. Don't let that hold you back, because that's bullshit. So do leverage your own story and your own success to get started, right? started, but don't justify it to sell this ridiculously expensive thing. Use it to justify getting started, to help you get those case studies and testimonials, and to tweak what you have going on so you can get those results for clients, and then escalate your pricing as it, the value that you're bringing to those people, you're proving that. So I do want to say that. But now to get back on topic, Brian, I had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So I get this idea of using Facebook ads, and I love how you start out with the target, and then we talked about doing the images and the copy. When people are testing, how much do you like to test per ad to get started? I know some people like $20, some people do $50, but for you, what do you say they should do per ad, and how long should you let it run? 24 hours, 48 hours to finally prove that it's a winner or not a winner?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and I have a tip along those lines too. And first off, I mean, I do think in those terms overall. But if you haven't been in the ad manager, just keep in mind that you're giving like a cost per day per ad set. You could certainly do like a lifetime budget or whatever, but I usually do daily budget, and I check the ads frequently to see when they need to, the ones that are proving they're not working, right? And sometimes you've got an ad that looks like it's going to work with one sale, but then it never gets another one. And there are some weird stuff, there's some weird things that go on with Facebook's, the way that it displays ads and who it displays to. And little tricks you have to do, because sometimes you'll have to take an ad that worked once and recreate it again to get more results. It's because I think there are still some things with Facebook ads, who they display the ads to and how they display them, that they're still working out. But the best ads are the ones that have that good cost per lead or cost per sale, and they continue to get, you've got sale after sale or lead after lead. And I really do think it's sometimes it's somewhere between 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 ads that you run that you find those. And as you see which ads are working and which ones aren't, you get closer. Like you realize which target works, you realize which image really seems to work for you, and so on. And then you start doing micro changes to those things that work and getting better and better results. Like it's different headline, same image, etc. So you can look at the thing, and usually people are running, what they're actually paying is cost per 1,000 views, right? So the secret is that these ads that have not gotten sales or leads can really drag down the overall ROI of your campaign, and you're waiting for them to get to a certain amount. So you can either look at the spend and say, if you know your target cost per lead is $20, you look at the spend and pause it when it hits $20 and there's no results. I think a lot of people don't realize that, and they'll just let it run. If it's still at 0, they just keep letting it run. You can also, if you notice that there's a certain amount of reach you have to hit, you can pause it based on reach too, right? Like it may not have spent as much as that $20 your target was or whatever, but it has reached the number of people that usually, if it reaches that number, it converts, and you can pause it then. So yeah, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good. I like it, man. And then the last question here, and then I'm going to throw this back to Andy to kind of wrap up here, is what's kind of the formula for somebody to find their lead costs? And this is kind of a can of worms here. And you said it differs for different businesses. It's $30, it's $20. For some people, I know it's $5. I know some people in my industry, they're willing to spend $1,000 for a buyer. In fact, they're even willing to spend $2,000 for a buyer because their price points are so high. But how does somebody that's kind of getting started fine tune that to come up with that number? Is there a formula or something?
I mean, the short answer is there isn't, and I mean, because there are certain questions I get from people before they start doing Facebook ads with us that are impossible to answer, and I keep going, but within a week of starting, we'll know, because you don't have that data. I mean, I think I have a general sense from the clients we've worked with that there might be, you know what, I'm going to have to think about that. There might be like I don't think we have enough data to like reverse engineer it yet. It definitely seems to be related to the niche. Like I can tell you, for example, when we were doing leads for a cloud hosting company, and their clients are going to make them thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, those are also more expensive leads. Targeting like IT admins and sysadmins, the cost per lead was somewhere between $25 and some of them were up to $100. When we were doing e-commerce for a pizza delivery chain in Scotland, and their cost per sale is only like $1 or $2. So it's all over the map.
So one of the things I hear you saying, and I'll throw this to Andy, is it's all kind of relative. So for those that are listening, if you're selling a coaching program, and this coaching program, let's just say it's $1,000, and you're like, oh, I only want to pay $1 or $2 a lead. That, I mean, maybe so, but if you look at like maybe the cost, like how many leads you got to convert, and like you said, maybe it starts looking like at 100. Would you spend? Maybe it's even $500. I know it sounds crazy, but you're still doubling your money at the end of the day. And so this mindset of, oh, I only want to spend $2 to make $1,000 sell, like that's like trying to play the lottery. Like you may actually have better luck just going to the gas station and playing Powerball or something like that, right? Than buying into that mindset.
And you've got to have a certain margin too. I mean, it's not just the percentage margin, but it's also the actual margin. It's really hard for so many companies that would get on to either AdWords or Facebook ads. If their margin is less than $100, your chances of succeeding are a lot lower. When you've got that larger margin, you just have a lot more room, to fail, or room to spend for that lead or that sale.
Awesome. Well, dude, Andy, I want to kind of just throw this back at you, man. It's all you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Brian, this has been excellent, man. I was actually at a barbecue. It was an Easter barbecue last weekend, and I was talking to a gentleman that does advertising for huge companies. It's all TV ads, and I said, we run some Facebook ads, and he's like, oh man, I wish I could do Facebook ads for these guys, because what he said was, he's like, what we do? I mean, it's so hard on TV because they run focus groups and they do these things, and the company commits to millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars, and he's like, and it's very common for them to have to just pull the ads. And he's like, and what happened once, what worked once in the same industry sometimes doesn't work a year later. He's like, it's mind-boggling the stuff that goes on. And he said, to have the tools and the targeting tools and the ability to test and the ability to control your budget, to scale it up, scale it down, all the things you can do on Facebook. He's like, you can't even do that. These companies are basically just rolling the dice.
I really think, and hopefully I'm not interrupting you too much.
No, this is your show, buddy. We're just here to
what are you doing on my show?
Let's make sure that help people dominate Facebook ads, brother.
Well, I'll tell you this: we didn't do any of the rah, and here's the thing: I think Facebook advertising is the most powerful and important marketing tool the human race has ever had. And part of it's for some of those reasons you mentioned, and it's really cool to hear a TV guy say that, because you can reach those TV and radio size audiences, but without committing more than $1 a day, and with that ability to test and track really well, like the direct marketers on cable who have like the different website subdomain for your city, that you're going to, all those little tricks they have to do to track. We don't have to do that. So I think it's super, super powerful, and for me it's one of those ways. The internet every few years gives David a way to beat Goliath, and it used to was SEO for a while. Sometimes it was several times it was SEO with different things about SEO, and then AdWords when it first started, and Facebook ads still, I think, in a lot of ways, just because the potential volume is there, so the competition hasn't become a huge problem yet. It's a gigantic opportunity, and yet I think the biggest thing is that there's a learning curve, and I honestly think it's 3 to 5 times harder to do Facebook ads than Google ads. There's definitely a learning curve. There are people we've trained. I would say about half the people that wanted to learn Facebook ads that we've trained, half of them quit because you have to know psychology, you have to be good, you have to like math, you have to be willing to analyze, you have to be willing to test stuff. You know, and then of course the basic things like you like being on computers, you know, and there are some entrepreneurs out there that are like, yeah, I want to do Facebook ads, but they don't even like, they're calling people like, my computer won't turn on. So you probably shouldn't be doing Facebook ads, right?
I hire someone to do Facebook ads.
Yeah, there you go. So some people need to hire somebody, and some people can if you can conquer that learning curve, you know, speaking about the job market, you know, I think digital marketing is a great career for people too, and
Yeah.
all this stuff is really, there's a lot of job security in Facebook changing stuff all the time.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Well, in all seriousness, no, that I raised my hand, but that's one of the big reasons why AJ and I partner, you know, and for other people out there, you know, there's a lot of skill sets that AJ has, and you know, that I don't, and that I don't want to have, and there's skill sets that I have that he doesn't, and that's why we partner. And I think that anyone that, you know, is looking to scale their business online, and you brought up a good point, like if you are one of those experts or entrepreneurs that doesn't like the tech stuff, you know, it's good to, you know, make sure you're hiring the right people, and sometimes you don't even know what you're hiring if you don't know. That's why conversations like this are awesome. And you know, and Brian, what I love about what you said up front, and this is what I, you know, I'm glad that AJ reached out to you and are on the show with us, because you're our kind of people, man. Like you give it real, seriously. And you know, you said like, hey, I hope your people aren't, you know, the snobs out there that, you know, don't want to market or think that marketing is bad. And then but then you went to the next step and said, but you know, also make sure you know what the heck you know, you have the right expectations, right? Because a lot of people think they just want to just throw the money into Facebook and it, you know, hit the cha-ching, you know, and it's just going to come out consistently every time. And there's so much more. You were also transparent about the fact that you got to have a good funnel. I mean, right? If you want this stuff to work, you have to have a funnel, you know. And once you bring all these people to you, you probably have to be pretty good at closing and converting in some other ways that technology is not going to help you with. There's a lot of moving parts to making this all work. But the big one is that you said, you know, is and I wrote them down here. I said, you know, number one, advertising is okay. You know, that was a big one.
It's okay, guys.
Number two, test like crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Test like crazy and be willing, you know, and then from there, be patient. Like, you know, have the patience. I mean, you're up front with your client saying we'll know in 2 months. You know, we'll know kind of where you're at. And the whole thing about the lead cost, I don't know, but we'll know in a week. Right. Yeah. I mean, like, you just, in all this stuff that you're doing as an online entrepreneur, you're never going to know until you do it. Right.
Yeah.
And the important thing is to test, to do it, make mistakes, fail, but have the right expectations. That's kind of what you're trying for the first time around, is to make mistakes and fail, so that you can learn from it, because it's the best way to learn. You know.
I think I like what you said there. I mean, I guess I'm your kind of people. We're the kind of people that are going to tell it to you straight. There are a lot of people out there who are going to tell you what you want to hear, which is all this positive stuff, which is, hey, those are great motivators, but they're selling you something that's probably going to be a lot messier when you get it to implement than you expect. And you know, sometimes, like, who was I talking to? I think it was another interview, and the interviewer was funny. She was like, "Oh man, you're so negative or whatever," and I'm like, no, I mean, it's the reality of implementing this stuff is there are pitfalls and you make mistakes and blah blah. I've just never seen anything. Some people luck out and they start doing Facebook ads and bam, you know. But that's 1 in 100 people that are just so lucky to have all these moving parts you mentioned in the right, you know. And I think sometimes you ever see an entrepreneur that has an amazing company and sells it, and then it's the sophomore slump, because they don't really know why they succeeded. The instant successes are the people who learned the least, right? And so when they do their next thing, they're like, well, I'm magic, so everything I come up with is going to be amazing. And then they fail, and they're like, oh, midlife crisis.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, the thing, and it's kind of like those other people you were talking about too. You know, you said those guys that are selling the success of their business. I mean, you know, when someone tells you just jump online, do Facebook ads, a webinar, be a millionaire. I mean, what you don't realize is you haven't seen that they've actually spent the 2 or 3 years testing, making the mistakes, you know, learning all this stuff, you know, and on top of it, you know, all the other skills that goes along with making it all come together. And the other one that you said that I think is really important is for people to know their budget and to know their, you know their numbers, know their goals, essentially, you know. because you mentioned it, and we kind of glossed over it, but you said like, hey, what are your goals? Are you gonna trying to bring in leads? Are you trying to get likes? Like, what are your goals? Because I think what a lot of people think what they expect and what they really want are two different things, and so it's like is your goal to actually get a client to buy your product, right? Because if that's the ultimate goal of what you're trying to do, then your budget is going to be probably a lot higher than others, right? And
it is. Because I mean, so let's say you've got your funnel and you get your leads, but then you're having trouble getting those people to buy. Is maybe your autoresponder series is not good enough, or maybe you got the wrong prospects in your lead funnel, So you can start and you can have some success and then be like, man, now how do I turn this into the sale part of it? And by the way,
maybe you've spent like 2 months putting together this awesome summit, and you realize that about 20 or 30% of the people that have opted in are just not getting your emails for some reason.
Is this autobiographical?
Even though your system says that they are.
I think I'm seeing AJ's smiling, so I think this is autobiographical.
But you know what I'm saying, man? I mean, it's crazy the stuff that can happen,
Yeah.
And, but what am I going to do? Call up the Facebook guy and be like, dude, your ads suck? No.
I don't know. Call up the abundance magical thinking people and say this is not what you told me was going to happen. And by the way, to your point, maybe this is something for your blog post, but we've managed over $2 million in spend for people, and I've personally spent $50,000 on Facebook ads for my own business. So
Awesome.
That's where all this stuff comes from. It doesn't come from, hey, I ran some Facebook ads and got a great result and made a video, and you've never heard of me, so you should buy my course.
Right. Yeah, no, Brian, I mean, all the stuff you gave is great, and I love it too, because it's like it's not negative, it's real. People need to hear this. The people that we're building in our community, and the people that watch this show, and the ones that will be religious about watching this show, are those that realize that starting a business takes time, it takes work, it takes patience. You have to do it the right way. Just because this opportunity called the internet and unlimited resources and people all over the world can now do business with us, doesn't mean that it takes away the same principles that apply to create any business, and we don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. We like to tell people the real nitty-gritty, and that
and then overdeliver.
and then know that it'll take time. So the message today is that Facebook ads they're complex. They can be a little hard, but at the end of the day, it's something that is so magical and powerful, well above and beyond TV and radio and things. And you can target to a level that you just can't in other mediums.
Yeah, and it works. We did a thing with a radio network starting stations in 3 new cities, and what we did affected their CUME score, which is the measurement of listeners. So that stuff, it works in the real world too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, well, awesome. Hey, and wrapping up again, advertising's okay. Test like crazy. Know your budget. Know your goals. Be patient, and when you're first getting started with this stuff, make sure you go and learn some of the materials, and and chances are, if you really have put together a great business, you now have a marketing budget. Work with someone like Brian Carter, and you go to BrianCarterGroup.com. That's right, BrianCarterGroup.com.
That's right.
Go check out his book, The Like Economy, Second Edition. We'll have links to both those things right below the video in the comment section. And Brian, just before we get out of here, man, are there any other tips or things that you'd like to share before we go?
I think I might have given them all away. No, actually, there's no. If you go to my site, if you want, one thing I didn't talk about at all is like copywriting. I have this post that I talk about what I call marketing molecules, where you get a list of all these things like your benefits and your blah 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 blah, and you can construct USPs or elevator pitches or tweets or blog post titles out of that. Maybe I'll turn it into some software at some point. But check the Google Brian Carter Group and then Marketing Molecules and check out that post. It's a quicker technique for coming up with some good copywriting you could use in your ads.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, guys, go check all that out, because copy is important, your target's important, your images are important, but copy is so important. Brian Carter, thanks, brother, for being on. And just in the spirit of game time, man, it's time. It's your time. It's game time. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.